All right, everybody. Thank you for those of you who have been in the chat patiently waiting. I have Mel Doerr, the Aloha Shirt Psychic, here with me. Mel, why don't you tell everybody, the 3 people in the entire universe that don't know about your channel, tell them a little bit about your channel and you.
Well, thanks to Linda Grindle. Well, thanks to a client of mine out in California, Gunnar Goebel. He told me about Linda Grindle, and he kept telling me about her. And so she read me, I read her, and she encouraged me to do a YouTube channel. I was like, I don't know. I didn't know anything about it. And then, growl, right? So anyway, to make a short story long, she encouraged me to do it, and I did it. And, you know, she had me on her channel numerous times, and now I'm on her channel every other Monday, and she's on mine every other Monday. And she really introduced me to the community. And so I owe it really to her and to people like you for having me on as well. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show.
Oh, it's completely my honor to have you on.
And you're going to be on mine April the 28th at 7 o'clock. So that won't be live, though. That'll be pre-recorded, and I'll set it as an instant premiere. So, you know, it just grew. And I think, I don't know, I think I'm up to 15,000 subscribers.
Oh,
and
great.
So you'll get there. So everybody hit the subscribe button for Colleen. And that is the Cool Crone, correct?
That's right. The Cool Crone.
Everybody subscribe. So that's how I got started. But before I met Linda, I mean, I've been doing my sessions here in Chicago for almost 50 years. I'm 68. Wow. I started when I was 18 or 19. So, you know, back in the day, I had a friend. She was a disc jockey. Back in the day, they called it disc jockey, but now they call them announcers.
Right.
On a local radio show here called WGCI. And she had me on her show. And then there were some producers. At that time, it was, I think, Continental Cablevision. And in those days, access cable was really huge.
Right.
And they asked me to come out and be on a show. And there was a show called Lifestyle. It was an award-winning cable show hosted by Pat Sheffer. And she had me on. And then I became a regular. And so in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, that just blossomed. Now, meanwhile, back at the ranch, I was also a social worker in geriatrics for 10 years.
Oh, my gosh.
And so I gave that up because it just got to be too much. And my mentor, Peter Herkels, Peter was a psychic that worked on the Boston Strangler case and the Sharon Tate murders years ago, told me he had this heavy Dutch accent. And he said, stop working in that crazy house where you work and start doing your readings. I'm like, I don't know. Well, anyway, I took his advice. And so it's been a great journey. I've done lots of radio, television, now YouTube. I've done a lot of forensics work, working on missing people, murder cases. I've got a blessing from the Pope. I don't know.
Wow.
Celebrities. So, you know, it's hard to talk about myself.
Yeah. Well, that's what these interviews are really great for, that everybody is doing, because I learn about you, but the greater community learns things about you that we wouldn't normally say about ourselves if we were just doing readings. And I think it's really, really fun, and just it grows the community. You know, it just sparks interest. Everybody wants to know these things.
You know, can I just stop for a second? I just noticed my battery's low. I got to plug it in.
Oh, please plug it in. Please go plug it in. No problem.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
You know, in TV, this is what we call bloopers.
Yes. Yes.
But I kind of like for the bloopers to stay in, because it just kind of shows what goes on.
Yeah. And again, it's something that I think everybody really likes. I mean, my daughter and I are big fans of the Marvel movies, and at the end, they do such long credits, but they always reward you by giving you these wonderful teasers to the next show. It's not exactly bloopers. It's, you know, a teaser for the next movie. But I loved when movies used to do that. They'd show you the bloopers at the end. Those were so fun.
You know, something told me to plug this in beforehand. I just didn't do it. So I didn't think about it. So much when you don't listen to your intuition, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, Mel, I have some questions here, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, all right, everybody, settle in, get your popcorn and your sodas because we're gonna interview Mel here.
We'll get the orange pop.
There you go. You've got your pop. You're ready to go. So, when did you first discover that you had a gift?
Well, I just thought everybody could do it. I mean, it's kind of like walking or breathing or whatever. And I remember being in the first grade, and my grandfather had been sick on my dad's side. And I came home and I looked at my mother. She was crying, and I said, "Grandpa died." And she said, "How did you know that?" And I said, "I just knew it." And so my dad was very intuitive. He would have, well, I use the word intuition and psychic all interchangeably.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad would have dreams that would come true. And my grandfather on my father's side could find water. He would take a fork stick and hold it.
Dowsing rods, yeah.
Exactly. He called it witching water.
Yeah, they called it.
Yeah. And he used to charge people. He was pretty good at it. And then my dad did it, and he showed me how to do it, so I can do it. Of course, nowadays, if you're trying to douse water, you might be over a sewer line or something. So
yeah, that's true.
But it just was natural for me. And I think when I was 12 or 13, my grandmother on my mother's side bought me a Ouija board, and everybody, don't freak out. It was, it was okay. And my grandmother and I used to play the Ouija board. So it was just so normal for me.
Yeah.
But I think I was like 12 or 13 before I learned the word psychic. And, I went to college and I studied psychology because I was looking for answers for ESP and couldn't find them in psychology, of course.
Mm-mm.
But, I had some relatives in Chicago. When I was in college, I would come here and I started sitting with the spiritualist, the first Temple of Universal Law in Chicago. It's now gone. And so, it was there that I really learned to hook into the intuition, and that's our psychic ability. And that's when it was a spiritualist church. And that's when I started doing my readings.
Wow. And how old were you then again?
I think 19 or 20.
Yeah. Interesting age for a young man to hook into that at that time. It's usually people have, I think, a little bit earlier in their adolescence or much later. Much later.
Well, I started playing with the cards when I was like 12. I mean, I could do it. I just didn't know how to read. I mean, I could read people, but I didn't, for me, it was normal. And so when I went to the first Temple of Universal Law, I found out that, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so the Reverend Charlotte Bright was amazing. She's been dead for years, but I used to be the young kid on the block. Now I'm the old man. But.
Oh, wow. Yeah. How things come around, how the cycle goes. I'm same. My family too. They were all pretty intuitive, pretty tuned in to stuff. So it was no big deal that, things like that, like you come home, people are crying. You're like, oh, Uncle Doug died. Yep. Sorry. Like everybody just kind of took it for granted. I totally relate to that. So I think you mentioned that you've been reading for people ever since, right? So that's
even when I was a social worker. I don't mean to interrupt you. Even when I was a social worker, I did readings at nights and on the weekends. And
wow.
Right.
Yeah. See, I've always done readings for people since I was pretty young too. But when I started having kids, it really fell off. And I spent a couple of decades just doing that and then came back to it. So, yeah.
And I also I used to teach. I was on staff at Infinity Foundation in Highland Park, Illinois.
Oh, wow.
That was a leading foundation for metaphysical.
Nice.
I'm having a senior moment here. Metaphysical kind of holistic education in the Midwest. And I just retired from there because I taught for 21 years and I was on the board of directors for 21 years. So now I'm teaching classes at my office here in Mount Prospect. It's a suburb of Chicago. And I'm going to start teaching them on Zoom, online, and all of that. And I'm going to be in Sedona with Linda in May, and then in September as well in New York. So that'll be fun.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great.
I love teaching.
Yeah, I do too. I teach in my civilian job at the law firm, and I also love to teach this stuff too, because I think it's so important. There's so many people who need it right now. There's so many people who are reaching out for it. It's amazing. Okay, so my next question is, do you have to do preparation before you can do a reading for somebody?
No.
Wow.
Just always.
Okay. That took the air out of the bubble. That's okay. That's okay. I'll just go on to the other thing.
Well, no,
And
that's what I teach my students. Here's what I say. It's hard for people to give the message. So the messages will come through like if you're visual, it'll be visual in your mind's eye. If you're auditory, it'll be auditory with your inner voice, in your mind's ear. If you're more feeling or kinesthetic, it'll be a feeling. And sometimes it's all of the above. But it's that first thought, that first feeling, that first thing that comes through. And I would tell my students, just give that message. And then people get hung up in analysis paralysis. That's what one of my students called it. And that is this me thinking this? Is this my intuition? Is this my psychic ability? And it's just give the message. So in between clients, though, at my office, I take a 15 or 20-minute break. So I take the dog to work with me. I play with her. I train her a little bit. I clear, kind of take a breath, and then go to the next person.
Wow. That's amazing. That's really amazing. Are there any kind of tools that you use aside from just yourself?
Well, with Peter Herkos, he used something called psychometry. And psychometry means like seeing through touch or feeling through touch. So, sometimes I'll take an object that belongs to somebody. It could be a watch, a ring, or something. And, the idea of that is everything's recorded. And so there's energies recorded in that the intuitives or the psychics can pick up. I do that sometimes. Occasionally I'll pull a tarot card. I say tarot. Some people say tarot, however you want to say it. Potato, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll do that sometimes on my channel. But typically I just go right into it.
That's awesome. That's just amazing. Yeah, I've seen you just go right into it. You are amazing.
Like, for example, I don't do a lot of medical stuff, but you should check your thyroid.
Okay. I'm going to make a note about that.
And I see your readings growing tremendously. So good.
That's good. That's really good. Thank you. Let's see. Do you get any physical sensations when you're reading for people?
Sometimes, like if I get cold chills, that either means spirit's presence or truth or switch in energy. If I'm working on a missing person case, I used to do a lot of that. I don't do a lot of it anymore because it's really draining.
Yeah.
Like if I would get a certain taste in my mouth, like that could mean the person either was an alcoholic, had a drug problem, and that could either be the victim or the perpetrator. And so let's say somebody comes missing and they come and talk to me. Usually it's police departments. So if they're missing, the number one thing you got to figure out is, are they alive or dead?
Yeah.
And if they're alive, where are they? And if they're alive, were they kidnapped? Was it foul play? Did they run off? If they're dead, it's like, was it suicide? Who did it? If it's a murder. And then the next phase is trying to, if it's a murder, hook into the perpetrator. Is a perpetrator male or female? How tall are they? What do they look like? Where's the body?
Wow.
So I'd get a lot of sensations. Clairvoyance doesn't mean predicting the future. It just means clear sight.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the images were visual. Other times it's a feeling. Sometimes it's just a knowing. We don't know how we know or what we know. We just know. That's called claircognizant.
Right.
So, all the clairs start to open up. The clairvoyance, the clear sight, the clairaudience, the hearing with the inner ear, the clairtactus, the cold chills. I call it clairaroma. Some call it clairambience, the smell. And the clairgustance is taste. So, sometimes, for example, if I would get a certain smell, like when you walk in a funeral home and I would see a hand going like this in a coffin, it would mean that somebody is about to die very soon. And if I got those things on a case, it could mean they're alive, but they're about to die. But if that's the case, then what? So it entails a lot.
I envy that you can get all that information, but I don't think that I would appreciate having to do work like that. I would not like having to tap into that.
Well, I didn't charge for it. And I felt like it was a way to give back because I think we have to give back. And so, Peter Herkos, he worked in a lot of murder cases and missing people. And it was him that really got me involved in it. And so I don't do much of it anymore because it is draining. But, um, it's giving back.
Yes.
I'm not afraid of the energies at all.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's just amazing work. So, now here's my next question. Do you associate yourself with any particular religion or type of philosophy?
Um, Pick one. um, my dad was Protestant. My mom was Catholic. So
Mhm.
we were raised Protestant. We had to go to confirmation classes. We were raised Catholic, both. We had to go to
Oh,
catechism. And so
interesting.
I was Christian Catholic and also as Protestant.
Wow.
But over the years, I've looked a little bit into shamanism,
Mhm.
and that's really cool. Buddhism is really cool. Hinduism is cool. Um, Spiritualism is cool. So I take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it works for me.
Yeah, that's same for me. I all those things you mentioned, I've had really deep connections with all of them, and I think they all have something to offer. And I just, I think that's a kind of a way of, it's like a poo-poo platter of stuff, and it gives you what you resonate to, and you don't have to really settle in on one. But that's, to me, that's just generally like pagan, Wiccan,
Right,
that's
exactly.
kind of all of that stuff. And um, a lot of people don't like that terminology, but I think I think we have to take back the language on that. I think, we just have
Well,
to.
Wiccan just means way of the good. And it's
Yep,
just talking about the Earth Mother and the Moon Goddess and those things.
right.
It's about doing good for people.
Exactly.
A
And
lot
at
of
harm
people
and at
confuse it,
harm none, do what thou wilt. That's
and,
the
and
Wiccan
it's not
religion.
a Christian religion.
It's
Um,
not a religion at all.
no. And a lot of people equate it with demonology and all that, and that is just totally different. Totally different.
Yeah, that is. It's just
Uh,
total lunch there.
but the thing the closest to my heart, I would say, is I've studied Hawaiian culture for years,
Oh,
years, and not the Max Freedom Long kind of stuff, because Max Freedom Long, what he did wasn't really Hawaiian. He just took Hawaiian names and put them to his own stuff. But
yeah.
I've studied with Hawaiians on the islands, especially on Kauai,
Mhm.
and I've learned a lot. And so Hawaiian kahunaism, kahuna, people say it meant a priest. It didn't. A kahuna was a specialist.
Oh,
So you could have a kahuna who was a specialist that talked to family spirits, or a kahuna who was a specialist who made canoes, or a kahuna who built houses.
hmm.
And so, it's almost like PhD today or doctor. And what? You know,
Yeah.
and because the ancient Hawaiians didn't have a written language, they passed everything down through chanting and through hula.
Mhm.
And they had glyphs, but they didn't have a written language. So all the knowledge was passed down verbally. And so you could study your entire life to be a kahuna in one given thing. And you did not cross over. Like if I were a kahuna amakua that I spoke to family spirits, I wouldn't cross over and be a kahuna who treated like the eyes. And it's like today, a dentist wouldn't do brain surgery. So
Right.
it made sense.
That's very interesting. I don't really know. The only thing that I know about anything Hawaiian is the Ho'oponopono
Well,
prayer.
Ho'oponopono, here again, there's a lot of people who made a big hoopla about it. Nana Viri's got it in her book. She's Hawaiian, Change We Must. Ho'oponopono just means to make restitution and
Mhm.
forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's not about pointing fingers.
Mhm.
So if somebody has done something wrong in a Hawaiian family, it used to be they'd get everybody together and it was like a confession. They would say, when you stepped on my foot, I wanted to go poison your plants. Or when you hurt my feelings, I wanted to hurt yours back. And it got everything out. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
Ho'oponopono, everybody is forgiven. I'm sorry. And you have to forgive yourself. And so the idea was that had to happen before healing could occur, whether that healing was physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. But it was just getting it out. And it wasn't about anger, pointing fingers, nothing like that. It was just getting all the toxic stuff out so you could heal.
Yeah. It's really good. It's just a really good exercise to do. every once in a while, because you do we live in a society in the Americas, in the continental United States, where people spend a great deal of energy trying to blame someone when things go wrong, and it filters down to us, and it hurts us because we spend so much time hanging on to these things, like somebody's got to pay for this, and after a while it's like, no, you are living your life. You're interacting with all these other humans, but you're living your life. You're born alone, you die alone, and you have to figure out what your relationship with the divine is, or you'll be miserable. That's the choice. So says
Correct.
Colleen.
Karma handles karma.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, in the old Hawaii, it was kind of cool because before you went in the ocean, you'd ask permission. Before you ate something, you'd ask permission. And it wasn't about if you had something you'd share. It wasn't about dogma. It was just about reverence.
Yeah.
Like
Native Americans do that before they kill something. They, ask permission, and once that being is passed over, they, offer it up to the Great Mother and that kind of stuff. It's really very similar.
It's like, thank you, ocean, for allowing me to come into you. Thank you, air, for allowing me to be on this airplane. It's reverent, and one of the people that I know very well in Hawaii said to me, my Hawaiian name is Li'ipua Okeakua. That means little flower of spirit, or little flower of God. And he said, Li'i, you have to come to the islands, because when you're on the mainland, there's all these holes in you, and everybody's taking a piece of Mel. On the mainland, you walk on the land. You come to Hawaii, those holes are filled. And in Hawaii, you walk with the land.
Yeah.
And he was right about that. And so if you're on the mainland, I have to remind myself sometimes to walk with the land instead of on it. Because the land is big to people in Hawaii. Think about it. They're on an island in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
The land is very sacred.
Yes.
And so is water.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay. I lost my place completely here.
I'm sorry.
No, it's wonderful. I love it because that's a particular philosophy that I don't know anything about, and I'm just fascinated. It's great. All right. So I think
let's see.
This is my next.
Do I associate myself with any particular religion? I saw on my list.
Yeah. But the next one I think you've already addressed.
Okay.
So number 8, what's the most embarrassing thing that's ever come out in a reading, either from you or from a client? And don't name names so that we don't embarrass anybody, but that let's hope.
Well, nothing embarrasses me too much. I mean, you hear it all. You really do. Oh my God. And you kind of have to sit there with sometimes you want to chuckle, but you kind of got to sit there like, oh, I see. It's like,
yeah.
But I've learned never to minimize somebody else's problem, because to them it could be max,
Yeah.
The funniest thing I'll tell. Well, this happened. There used to be a restaurant down the street from me called Spavone's, 7 Hills, and we used to all go there every weekend, hang out. And a lot of well-known Chicago celebs would come in there. So one time, a member of the Blackhawks, Chicago ice hockey, came in, and we were sitting there having our double vodkas and tonics or whatever we were drinking. I don't know. And we'd eat. Then the maitre d' would sing Italian songs, and it was really a lot of fun.
Nice.
So this hockey player came in, and my friend and partner back in those days, her name was Linda as well, Linda Petrine. She's not reading anymore. But we were sitting there talking about a case we were working on, and this hockey player came in. Hey, Mel and Linda. Hey, how you doing? I don't believe in any of that psychic stuff. And I'm going, well, we didn't ask your opinion.
Yeah.
Well, if you're so psychic, what do you see for me? So, we had a few, and I'm like, don't make a psychic mad, because it ain't pretty.
No.
Right? Well, what do you see for me? And he kept on. I said, okay, I see your knee blown out. I said, so you really had better be careful. Well, I'm a hockey player, but nothing's ever happened to my knee, and I don't think it will. Okay, fine. No problem. A couple of weeks later, we were in there again, having a good time. This guy comes in, he's on crutches, and got this whole thing around his knee. And he had popped his ACL and messed up his knee, and he had to have emergency surgery. And he looked at me and goes, I will never question your ability again.
Wow.
I said, I said, well, the curse was free. Now it costs you $5,000 to remove it.
I love it. I love it.
So that's probably my
That
most
is, that's a big one. That's a
my
good
most
one.
funniest YouTube one was I was sitting doing a show with Linda, and I looked at the corner of my eye, and I thought, is that the dog? And I'm like, is that a spirit? What is that? It's my husband crawling on the floor because he didn't want to get in the frame, and he was going to go outside and smoke a cigarette. I don't smoke cigarettes, but he goes outside, and he's crawling on the floor. And I'm like, Gary, what are you doing crawling on the floor? He goes, I didn't want to get in the picture.
Oh, poor Gary.
Yeah, poor Gary.
Well, Gary should have taken that as a sign from the universe to stop smoking.
Or to just walk through and get in the frame and say hi to everybody.
Yeah. Either or.
My husband's very shy.
Aw, that's sweet. I'm sure he's very sweet.
He's a very nice man. He puts up with me. He has to be.
Aw, that's adorable. So now I've heard you say several times that you and your husband want to go to Europe to help with the refugees in Europe, in the Ukraine specifically. So two questions actually. I originally was just going to say, what do you think pulls you there so strongly? But also, what's the update? Is there any progress on that?
Well, thanks to a friend of mine, I won't say her name on the show because people are funny about their names. We'll call her, she's a pathologist. We'll call her Dr. L.O.
Okay.
First name L, last name O. And she has, I think, a nephew in Poland who's really high up in the American Army. And she's got, I think, a cousin in Poland and children in Europe. And they've gotten together and sent medical supplies to Ukraine and all of that. They're doing a wonderful humanitarian job.
Great.
And so when I heard about what was happening, I just felt compelled either to go to Poland or Slovakia or Budapest to help with the refugee situation. And thanks to Dr. M, she's put me in touch with people. So now I have organizations where I'm figuring out the logistics of it because I don't speak Polish or Ukrainian.
Yeah.
And so some of them want you to do that. But, whether it's passing out clothing or just putting meals on plates, whatever they want me to do in Poland. And so I just feel called there. It's just this urge that I need to go help out. Yeah. Instead of giving it lip service, I think it's time to do something about it. Yeah. And maybe that energy will help change things, not because I'm doing it, but because of the pouring out of love that everybody is showing for the Ukrainian people. Yeah. So I just feel called to do it. And people will think,
it might inspire other people to do more too. I think that's another thing that is inspiring when you see people that have that kind of pull to do something like that. I think that's amazing.
Well, I always wanted the Peace Corps when I was younger, and I never did. So, I don't know. This is the way to pay back. And I think that we have to pay back. In the Jewish religion, and I feel very close to the Jewish religion as well, you're supposed to do mitzvahs. Mitzvah means a good deed. And you can try to do one every day. It could be a smile. It could be just helping somebody, whatever it is. It doesn't have to cost any money. And so it's just a mitzvah I want to do. And, people ask me if I'm afraid. I go, absolutely not. Spirit is calling me to do it. So how could I be afraid of what Spirit is calling me to do?
Yes. Oh, well, amen to that. That's really good. Really, really good. So I think that's most of our questions because the last one you already answered too. So I think we'll go on to reader questions.
Okay.
And so I've got just a handful of reader questions here, and then we can look at some of the questions in the chat. So we're going to have plenty of time for questions. That's good. So the first question is from, now Cindy, please don't kill me for mispronouncing your name. It looks to me like Resendes, but it might, I don't know. Resendes, that's what I think it is. Cindy Resendes. And she says, I can't wait to see you both. I am Canadian. So do you see the Conservatives under Doug Ford hanging on to power this year in June's election?
Well, number one, hello, Canada.
Yeah. Hi, Canada.
I love Canada. Gary and I were there. And the Canadians, we were there for Canadian Independence Day. And
Nice.
the Canadians were so friendly and so nice. Oh my God, it was so cool. We got to go back. We did a tour up through Toronto and up through the Finger Lakes and down into New York. It was really neat. I want to see Vancouver, BC, and I'd love to go to the Calgary Stampede. That's in Calgary, Alberta. I think it's Alberta, Calgary. I don't know. But it's a rodeo. It's supposed to be really cool. So, you know, I had said that, Canada needs to be careful because what happened here could very easily happen in Canada
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
Trumplicans taking over and all of that.
Hmm.
And I'm sure that whole truckers thing that was a protest, I'm sure that was dark money coming from here, from the ultra right funding all of that.
Yeah.
And that's all starting to come out.
Mm-hmm.
But, Canada will be polarized, but not as much as the United States. So I think they'll learn from the mistakes that happen here and learn not to do it in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't think they're going to let a small group control them like we do here. That small group. This is almost like the American apartheid. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
And so I see, but I don't know how Canada defines conservative. It might be a whole different definition.
Yeah. Well,
Like
I
in
don't know either.
Australia, I got a thing from Australia, an email, and she said in Australia, we call conservative more what you would call Democrats. I'm like, whoa.
Interesting.
So it
Interesting.
depends on the cultural
Yeah.
definition.
And, our parties have kind of morphed and changed over the decades, so they're not really what they were before anyway.
Well,
I just realized, Mel, I forgot to bring my cards in to my office. So I'm going to just grab my cards really quick. So for the next question, I can pull a card. So everybody talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
I'll just keep talking about Canada.
Good. Good
So
one.
anyway, I'm just looking at the question. So I'm looking to the side. Excuse me. I see more moderates coming into power in Canada. So not conservatives. And here again, I don't know the Canadian definition of conservative. Here, the word conservative has become synonymous with ultra-right fascist. And if we're Democrat, they call us socialist. And I'm not a socialist. I believe in free enterprise. But, I think a society has to take care of its people as well. So here again, at the risk of being redundant, I don't foresee Canada will make the same mistakes that we did. Thank goodness. And if certain parties get in here, I told Gary, we might just be visiting Canada a lot.
Yeah.
I've said about my nervous giggle. Somebody commented on that, and I'm like, just who I am. I try to watch it.
Yeah. I think, and I don't think you're the only person who does that. I think a lot of people do that. I think they do. Okay, so my next question is from Lucy Phillips, and it says, will Marianne Williamson, the spiritual leader and activist, see traction for establishing a Department of Peace within the next 5 years?
I don't know if she's talking about a Department of Peace within the government.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what she wants in the government.
Okay. I know Marianne Williamson. I'm just not real familiar with what she's doing. Somebody gave me this deck. I've shared it before, and it's called Messages from Dog. It's really cool.
Cool.
Really
cool.
And it's by Donna McDonald, written and illustrated by Susan. I think it's Leon. Anyway, so I just pulled one of those. Kind of fun.
Yeah.
So the answer to the question is, will there be a Department of Peace? And the answer came back to be bold, to be assured that she can run with the big dogs. And she certainly is. And I do see, I don't know if they'll call it Department of Peace. It might be Department of Human Relations or something like that. And I do see that established. So the answer is yes. I just don't think they'll call it that.
Okay.
But it might take a little bit longer than 5 years.
I got very different cards. I got the first card came up the 8 of Cups. And that might just be that she's, disappointed with how it goes. But then the next two cards was the Hangman and the Lovers. So I think, she's going to be a little upset that it takes as long as it takes. But eventually, all of us are changing our perspectives, as witness the hangman, and the lovers is showing the great cooperation. And astrologically, I can say, yeah, that definitely there's a good chance of that happening, because all the planets are moving much more towards compassion and feeling. We got a lot of Pisces energy, we got a lot of Aquarius energy, and we're moving away from that Capricorn energy, which is so really dogmatic. It's very dogmatic, and we're moving away from that.
Well, the question about Marianne Williamson is, for a while it's going to look like it's defeated. It's going to ha 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 ha. But she's planted a seed and it's starting to sprout. And it's going to keep growing and growing and growing. It takes a while for a seed to grow. But ultimately, if nurtured, it becomes a whole garden or a whole forest or a whole tropical rainforest. Mm-hmm. And that's the vision my guides are giving me for her, for Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
So just because the seed might not grow as quickly as she wants it or as we'd like it, it will grow.
Yeah, and I think she's pretty tuned in too. And I think her whole run for presidency was exactly to drop the pebble in the pool and see what rippled out from it, because she knew she was never going to get elected president, but she also knew that doing that gave her a platform to say some great things that people in all over the world, all over the country, all over the government really needed to hear. Like, we need a Department of Peace, not just a Department of Defense or a Department of War. So I think, you got to do some outrageous things sometimes. And I think that was an outrageous thing that's going to have far-reaching ramifications.
They might not call it that.
They might not. Yeah.
Human interaction. But I look at it this way. My guides just gave me a message, a light. When I get that light bulb going on in my head, they show me at some point her running for political office. Again, not president, but it could be either the Senate or Congress or the House. Mm-hmm. And she'll win.
Yeah. Yeah. They just weren't ready for her,
Well, they can say we weren't ready for Marjorie Taylor Greene either. And look what happened.
God, no. Yeah, we were not ready for her.
But Marianne Williamson would be the polar opposite of Marjorie Taylor Greene. But Marianne Williamson has a warrior spirit, but a good warrior spirit.
And I would venture to guess that Marianne Williamson probably has as many or maybe many more followers on like Twitter and stuff than Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Correct.
She's got a very big following. So
I see her running for office and winning.
Yep. And her influence will be felt, I feel.
So that's where the peace stuff can really start to take place onto the planet. But you got to talk the people's language. Mm-hmm. Because if you say, okay, I'm running on peace and you can't make it really out there. You have to speak people's languages.
Yes.
So if she would just say, I'm going to try to pull people together to try to get along in harmony and things like that, she could sell it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what Joe Biden sold.
Correct.
Yeah, that's exactly what he sold, and it worked.
You got to speak people's language.
That and a stimulus check, that worked.
Well, I think there's going to be another stimulus check right before the midterms.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah. Yeah, like I told you, I'm putting half a roof on my house, so I could go for any little help right now.
Check the gutters.
Yeah. All right. So the next question is from Ann Hutchinson. And she says, ever since I was a kid, I've had this happen. When I am in bed, not asleep yet, a bright light shines on my face. I've always been afraid to open my eyes, so I haven't. Who or what is this?
Well, I don't think it's aliens. I think it's probably maybe a spirit guide or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just open the eyes and say, okay, what is it? What do you want? I don't see any harm coming to her at all.
No, and for a lot of people that are afraid like that, I think it's very one good question to ask yourself is, what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
It's just a light.
My grandmother used to say the dead ones won't hurt you. It's the light ones you got to worry about.
Exactly. That's right. And yet we're still afraid of that. It's the unknown that we're afraid.
Correct. I don't think it's anything bad. I really think it's either angelic or I use the word angel and spirit guide interchangeably. So it feels like it's almost like a guide trying to get her attention.
Yeah, and chances are when she opens her eyes, then, she'll begin to allow that light in. So maybe there's more of a symbolic thing here that she's, resisting the light in some way. And this is one way for her to allow it in, a
Correct.
very tactile way to allow it in, which may be what she needs.
That was an excellent point. Like, what is it in her life that she's resisting?
Hmm.
Not just the light, but what else?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We always have to ask ourselves that.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Please, I'd ask myself that every day. Not every day, like every second.
Interesting. All right. So this next question is from JDDJ, and she says, "Yay!" And I guess that's about us doing a collaboration. So yay, JD. So it says, "Will our society ever get out of a?" She puts in quotes, "tier economics? If so, how long will it take?"
I don't know what she means by tier economics. I don't know if she's asking.
I think you've got the 0.01%, and then you've got the 1%, and then you've got the 10%, and that's where all the money is. And then there's all the rest of us that just struggle.
Well, unfortunately, there's always going to be poverty for whatever reason. I do think we'll make it better for people and give them a lot more opportunities so that they don't have to stay in poverty, because they're not there because of their choice. They're really not. It could be the way they were brought up. It could be, it's not choice at all. I mean, so I see a society where we're going to give a lot more opportunities for everybody. When I say equal opportunity based on their talents and abilities, the person's talents and abilities. Not everybody can be a doctor, but not everybody can be a plumber. And so based on their talents and abilities, there'll always be a wealthy class, but I see the wealth distributed more evenly. And at some point, I see the wealthy having to pay their fair share of taxes and things like that. So, so many people get by without paying taxes, and, their secretary pays more in taxes than they do. And I see that whole formula changing.
Oh, thank goodness. That'll be really good. Okay, she has a couple more questions. Do some people have more abilities while manifesting than others?
We all have intuition or psychic abilities, and it comes in many different forms. It's kind of like playing the piano. You can sit there and press a bunch of buttons and make a sound or plunk out a little song. That's more like me. But there are people who are really talented and can be brilliant pianists with the proper training. So I think we all have ESP, psychic abilities, intuition, whatever you want to call it. But some of us have it more of a talent for it than others, but we all have it. And what I do in my classes is teach everybody to hook into what they have. So
Yeah,
we all have it.
yeah. I think for a lot of people, myself included, for certain things, for certain abilities, we get kind of like Harry Potterized. Like when it doesn't happen like immediately, we're like, oh well, I can't do that.
Correct.
And nobody does this just from birth.
No.
We have the abilities from birth. It's what you do with it. Do you get shamed into shutting it off? Do you flourish with it in your family? I mean, it really depends on your environment and how you're able to use those things. But even once you're an adult, you have a choice to use those things and develop them or not. Like working out, you can go to the gym and build up your muscles. But if you don't go to the gym, chances are you're probably not going to build up your muscles. And I think it's the same thing.
It is. It absolutely is. I mean, kids don't have the filters that adults learn to have. And
Right.
so they're highly intuitive, and what's on the heart's on the lips. And that's what I like about kids. And, luckily in my family, we weren't shamed. We weren't put on the psychic walk of shame. But,
Mm-hmm.
growing up in the South, do you know how many times I heard, oh, that's of the devil? And when I said I was Catholic, then I was even more of the devil, according to them.
Yeah.
And then try growing up in the South to be, a gay. And I knew I was, but I didn't know anybody else was, because in those days,
Nobody talk about it.
growing up, having this ability and being gay. And it was like, whoa, I can remember people coming to my door when I was in college or whatever. And like, have you been born again? It's like, no, my mother did it right the first time. Thank you. Or, Do you know Jesus? And I'm like, well, I never really met him, but I'd probably like to meet the dude,
Yeah.
Or this one got me. Are you a practicing homosexual? I had a priest ask me that once. And I said to him, I really didn't have to practice.
I love that. Oh, that's great. Oh, but what a silly question.
I just refuse to argue. I had a lady come to my office once, talk about, I don't know if this was embarrassing, but it really made me angry. She came and I said, what brings you to see me? And she goes, well, you should tell me. And I said, well, I'm a psychic, not a mind reader. And I'll say to people, what brings you to see me? I just want to hook right into their issue. And she said, well, I came to save your soul. And I said, save my soul from what? Yeah. Well, from Satan. I go, oh, well, I don't believe in a Satan like that, And so she starts to preach and preach and preach. And I said, ma'am, one moment. I have a blessing from the Pope because I'm a psychic. And she's like, well, that's of the devil too. And she kept going. And I said, ma'am, if you came to preach to me for an hour, I will sit here and listen to you. You're not going to change how I feel or what I believe, but you will pay me for this hour. Well, I'm not paying you. I said, then we can call the police and have them decide that. You came here, you made an appointment, you made an agreement to pay, and well, I'll just give you a bad write-up. I said, go right ahead. I don't care, but you have to pay. And it wasn't about the money. It was about the receipt that she used to get in.
Yeah.
And so that was one of that moment was one when I really got mad.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. She went to great lengths to try to do. She knew you weren't going to convert on the spot. She just wanted to
shame me. That's all.
Shame you, embarrass you, whatever. Wow. She really went to wow.
But I heard what she had to say, and I'm like, okay, I totally disagree with you, but you will pay. Well, I'll give you a check. And I said, no, because then you'll stop payment on it. You better give cash.
Yeah, good for you. Wow. Oh, who knows what draws people to do that? This is crazy. All right, JD has another question. Why do I get these horrific dreading feelings deep in my gut, but I can't figure it out? Then something awful happens.
That's called premonition. So premonition is there's something that's going to happen. It's almost like an anxiety we have. Here again, it's claircognizant. We don't know how we know or what we know. We just know. And, Peter Herkos called it the odic force, O-D-I-C. And he said it's a force like this three-dimensional force, metaphysical force that's around all of us. And if there's something that creates a break in that force, it could be a future event, it could be something yet to come, something that's happening, it causes ripples in that force. And there are some of us that are attuned to that and sensitive to that. Mm-hmm. So what's happening is you're attuned to those ripples in the odic force, and that's what's going on. It's a premonition. I would like to say it's going to go away, but it won't. But it doesn't always have to be something bad, by the way. Psychic energy is fueled by emotion. So if there's something with an emotional charge, like a tragedy or a happy event, so it doesn't always have to be that this premonition has to be about tragedy. It could be about something happy too, because remember, psychic energy is fueled by an emotion.
Yeah. Oh, good. Great.
And that's what she's hooking into. She's hooking into the emotion of it, that break in the force. It's called premonition. It's a form of claircognizance.
Fabulous. Fabulous. That's great. All right. Our next question is from Linda Sanchez, and she asks, will Kevin McCarthy ever be removed, or will he become Speaker of the House? Kevin McCarthy, so annoying.
I see Kevin McCarthy gone. And now I have to do my psychic thing. Thank God. I'm sorry, my Catholic thing.
I knew what you meant.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, good.
There's going to be so much that comes out about him.
I know.
And if I had to pull a tarot card, I would probably pull the moon, which means all these things coming to the surface.
Yeah.
And, when I try to see any kind of political future for him, I can't see anything. So when I can't see anything, it means he's going to be done.
Good answer. Good answer. All right. So now Gina H is asking a personal question. She says, my sons are in their early 20s and both are just drifting and without direction. Any career or educational advice for them? Thank you. Signed, Anxious Mother.
Well, that would almost entail a full reading for her sons.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
sometimes people find their ways in their due time, not in ours.
yeah.
So I don't think they're lost. It's kind of like you try this path and it might not seem to work. So you try that path and it doesn't work. So you try that path. So I think they're just trying different paths. And we all have our experiences to teach us, that ultimately when we get the path we're supposed to take. So I do see them launching, and I see more schooling for both of them, more training, and I see them finding their careers and their paths, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that sounded generic, but
No, I think the one of the hardest things to do as a parent is to allow your kids to kind of launch themselves. And you watch them, you know the mistakes they're going to make because you can see the choices that they've made. But eventually most of them figure it out. And you've probably done a great job as a mother, Gina. So
I
just
think so.
believe that your kids are not dopes. They're going to figure it out. It's just it may not be what you think is the right timeline, but it's right for them.
Sometimes I tell my clients, you got to eat popcorn, drink Coke, and watch the movie. Because if you try to force them into something wrong, now if they're doing something like drugs or doing illegal stuff, then
Yeah.
you intervene. Of course you do.
Yeah.
If you say, no, this is not acceptable, then you don't eat popcorn, drink and Coke and watch the movie. Then you grab them and say, stop this.
Right.
But, I understand her struggle because I did pull a card on this when I've got the Five of Wands, which I understand her
Yeah.
struggle.
Mhm.
But, and then I pulled the Tower. So that's a lot of upset and change. But then
Yeah.
I asked for the outcome for her sons and for her, and look what came up: the world.
Yeah. And with that Tower card, that because she feels that they're just drifting and without direction, that Tower card may be shifting them into a different paradigm where their life does have a direction. So the
Correct.
Tower is probably very positive for them in that respect.
Correct. It's not bad. It's an
Yeah,
energy shift.
absolutely. So I'm going to scan through here and look for some questions. Libra Lady says, could you please schedule a group prayer intention live for Ukraine with your readers and community? I'm glad you asked that, Libra Lady. I do a monthly meditation that's open to everybody. It's a live stream, and we've done two of them so far, and both of them we focused on world peace, and the last one was specifically just for Ukraine and the world leaders. We'll be doing more stuff for the world leaders in Ukraine and everybody involved. Even we may even say prayers for Russia, whatever. But if you join us for that, I'll be posting that soon, because it's usually at the end of the month. It's usually just before the last week of the month. So in the next 2 weeks I'll be doing that.
Let's
Probably
do a little
towards.
something now if we have time. Do we have time to do a little?
Yeah, sure. Let's do something now. Go
Well,
ahead, Mel.
I'll do
I'm
it this way.
inspired.
We'll start with Mother Earth, Grandmother Moon, Grandfather Sun, Father Sky, Great Spirit. We call upon the direction of the North, the White Buffalo, to bring us unity and harmony and wisdom. We call on the direction of the East and call in our ancestral spirits, their keen eye, to be able to have the knowledge to use the wisdom correctly and to bring peace. We call upon the South, the wolf, the tribe's greatest teacher, the keeper of the intuition, Grandmother Moon, to give us the intuition to teach peace, acceptance, tolerance. And we call on the West direction of the bear, the warrior spirit, the introversion to go inward to find the answers and come out and to have the courage to stand up and fight for what is right. We ask for strength to the Ukrainian people, and we know that truth and freedom and justice for them and for all will always win. Thank you.
Wow, you need to do that more, Mel. That was very powerful. I
That's
love those words. I'm going to write that down. I love that.
That's kind of a shamanistic, spiritualist.
Yep.
So when you ask about religion, that's kind of how I practice. That's not kind of how I
Love it.
practice. That's how I practice things.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Let me see so we can get some questions here. Um, uh, well, Jane Barmash wants to know if she'll be getting another dog.
Oh, let's ask dogs, shall we?
Yeah, go for
Another
that.
dog. Well, you're asking the wrong person because I'm going to say go for it because I
Yeah.
love dogs. Oh, look. This is so cool. I pulled this one again. Go fetch. It's time to live your dreams now. So yes, you'll get another dog. It'll find you.
Very nice. And Mo D Live, I hope I pronounced that right. Hello, any guidance on how I can look for my next work?
Ooh. Well, I'm a believer of synchronicity. And, we have to be proactive. It's not going to fall from the sky. But I do see a job change or a new job coming for you. And my timing's sometimes wrong, but with that, I see the number 7. So it could be 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 months. And I think it's just because of the feelers that you put out. That's how it finds you. But don't take something that comes along just because you think you should take it. You have to use your intuition. If your intuition tells you it feels okay, then do it. But if you have a question, then don't. So I don't exactly know if she's asking about career path or what exactly the question is, but I do see a different job coming for her very soon.
Okay, great. We also have another work question from Seascape. She spells it Ciescape, so a little bit different, Seascape. And she says, could you pull a card for what type of work I would excel in?
I don't know if there's a card for that. I don't know. Do you do tarot? I don't know what kind of card.
See, I'll pull something.
Well,
here.
I pulled the 6 of Wands.
Victory.
Which means victory. And then I pulled the 10 of Cups, which means celebration.
So maybe they should be a party planner.
Yeah, something to do where you could pull people together with people. You could try something in travel, not a travel agency, but like working for a tour operator or something like that. Also, some kind of helping profession would be cool too.
Yeah, I pulled 10 of Cups. So, definitely that celebration, emotion, happiness, getting into people's happy times.
Check out with something with travel because
there you go.
Because the 6 of Swords, the boat going across water. So having something to do with travel or going across water, which will be travel.
or maybe she needs to take a trip to change her environment, change her perspective, and maybe on that trip she'll figure out what she's doing.
And she will have a trip, by the way. The answer to that is yes.
There we go. We work well together, Mel.
Okay,
let me see.
I like collabs. They're so much fun.
Yeah, they are. All right, this is from Gina. Oh, wait, we did that. You answered that for Gina. Let's see. Oh, is that it for the questions? I think maybe I didn't go down far enough. Okay, let me see here. Okay. Delma Montes says, I keep seeing 617 everywhere. It's my address. Why do you think she's seeing it all the time?
I do not know, actually.
Yeah, that's weird. I guess keep looking, Delma.
Well, let's do the numerology. 617, right? So 6 and 1, 7, 14. That's a 5. Let me just check something. Numerology 5, right? Give me a second. I'm looking down because I'm looking up something.
Sure. Go ahead.
Numerology 5. Okay. Also, 5 would represent the planet Mercury and associated with our senses. So I think it's about taking your power back and looking in and seeing your own inner beauty. That is what the 5 is about. To see your own charisma and to start having fun. because 5 represents fun-loving, cheerful, outgoing. So it feels like this querent might have a little bit of depression or a little bit of funk going on. And I see the person coming out of that. So I just take it to mean something like that.
Great. Oh, that's lovely. That's beautiful.
I don't take it to mean a change of residence, by the way, because I don't see that. But I
Yeah.
do see where she's living some electrical problems or some plumbing problems or a combination of both. So she's got to watch for that. But nothing major.
Okay. Sylvia Hanks in the comments says, will I be able to walk again without a cane so I can work?
I do continue to see her using an assistive device like a quad cane or something. I do see the walking get better. But even with quad cane, are some of I see her working again. So I do see her working.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, this is her name is like all letters and numbers, but I think it stands in for Crafty Lady 1717. She says, my brother is 2 years older than me. He was born 11:59 a.m. I was born 11:59 p.m. Any significance or just coincidence? Well, I'm an astrologer, so
Okay,
so
go
I'll
ahead.
take the first crack at that one. Crafty Lady, can you put in the comments, do you guys have the same birthday, or what are your different birthdays? Just give her a second.
Hold on. It's 14. That's 5.
Okay, she didn't write anything. What'd you get, Mel?
Well, I picked up the number 7. I added the numbers up. So numerologically, let me check it out. All right. I don't know numerology that well, but
oh, she says he's in April, I'm in July. Well, the timing astrologically is not going to make a lot of sense, except that it is a coincidence that you guys are born at the exact same hour and minute, just AM and PM. In April, that would do one thing to your natal chart, and in July it will do something else to your natal chart. So in that respect, it's not. So go ahead, Mel. What's the
that's what I'm picking up. I think it just could have been coincidence.
Yeah, and I think it is wise for you to question any coincidence in your life, because very often that's the way spirit speaks to us, and that's the way we've kind of aligned ourselves in our own contract for life to, be connected with one another. And maybe that's it. You guys came into these lifetimes to be brother and sister, and this is one more link between you.
Yeah, because they've been brother and sister in past lifetimes, except in one of them the roles were reversed. And they've had many lives together.
Hence the time that they have that link, AM, PM. Yes, it's like a yin yang almost kind of thing.
That's what hit me, actually, when you brought that up.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Very good. Okay. Well, I think, let's see. You guys will tell me in the chat right away if I've missed any questions, but I think that's everybody's questions. Oh, and Warrior Girl 113, she's one of my clients. She said, wow, Mel, that was beautiful about your prayer. Thank you with all my heart and soul. Hugs.
Oh, thank you. That's the work we're supposed to do. I think when people say, what is my life's purpose? The answer is the same for all of us, to help others. Now, the others could be people. It could be the plants. It could be animals. My cousin told me, Mel, some people are meant to have kids. You're meant to have dogs. But I was on the board of directors for an adoption agency, and I've helped raise a lot of kids. So I wasn't fortunate enough to have any of my own. But because of that made me so much more cognizant of helping other children. And so we're all put here to help. Whatever tool we use, and that's what makes it so beautiful, because we have all these tools we can use. And I think the thing that confuses people is, what tool are they supposed to use?
And maybe the answer is as many as you want.
As many as you can get. You can put anything in your toolbox you want, as long as
right.
Others and yourself in so doing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Well, Mel, this has been a delightful chat. I know people in the chat have really enjoyed it as well. And I'm looking forward to being on your channel. I think I'm so jazzed. That's going to be great. And thank you to everybody in the chat that contributed questions, and everybody who posted questions for me on my community page. Those were all great questions too. And thank you, everybody. And we'll be doing this again.
Yes, I look forward to it. I want to say thank you, everybody, for supporting your channel. And
Yeah,
how can they go to your channel? Cool Crone, right?
yeah, it's just the Cool Crone on YouTube. And in the description of all of my videos, I have a Linktree link, which will take you to everything else, Instagram, Facebook, all of that stuff. So
okay,
that's
I got
how
to talk to you later about when we're done, when I do your reading about how to do Instagram too.
Okay.
But I want to thank everybody too for supporting as well my channel. I want to thank Linda Grindle for, she has done so much good in helping people on YouTube get established, and she's just an amazing person, as are you.
No, thank you.
And it's been my pleasure, and I'm really, wow, it was really fun. So
Yeah, it's really fun.
I'm sure we'll do a lot more.
Yeah, we got into some interesting topics.
We
And I got to give a shout out to Linda Grindle too, because once I did the interview with her, my gosh, my subscribership really shot up a whole bunch and just all sorts of stuff started happening. So
well,
thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I see it going up a lot more.
Oh, yay. That's great. That's great. Okay, everybody, we're going to sign off now. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Don't forget about the meditations every month. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.